Hi, this is the University of Texas at Dallas Natural Science and Mathematics Career Success Center workshop for ACE Your Interview. Today, we're going to go over what you should do before, during, and after the internship or job interview. Our agenda will cover interview perspectives, interview attire, I've applied to a job, now what? I have an interview, now what? The day of the interview, behavior interview practice, and after the interview. Interview perspectives. Interview basic motivations has two different perspectives. You have the candidate perspective and you have the employer perspective. What would you say is your goal for entering an interview? What do you think the goal is of the employer? Take a second just to think about it. The candidate perspective is you want to make a case for yourself. You want to be strong. You want to sell yourself as a strong candidate. You want to get a job. You want to provide information that provides a great background, great qualifications beyond your resume to show yourself as a great candidate. For the employer's perspective, they want to make sure that they have a candidate that is a good fit and meets all of the qualifications. They need a candidate that's going to promote their organization professionally. They want to evaluate the candidates and make sure that they find a great match because it's the employer who has a problem. They want to fill a position. So make sure you tell them why you are the solution. Interview attire. For interview attire, you need to put yourself in this scenario. You have an interview next week for a position. What would you wear? You should know by now because you do not want to wait. Make sure you obtain your attire now to prevent yourself from rushing. And you should always remember that you only get one chance to make a great first impression. So now we're going to talk about your interview attire. Which would you wear? Give yourself a moment just to think about it. Okay, for the women, on the left-hand side, you have a great business suit, and you also have a great business skirt suit. Either is fine, but there are some differences. As well as for the men, make sure you make the right choice. Please know that the choice that you make should make you look professional, confident, and competent. The idea is to look like you belong to the organization and to suggest that you are ready to go to work. Okay, here are my opinions regarding the interview attire. So for the women, I would prefer the nice pantsuit. It's not loud, it's a great color, it's very basic, and it's really nice. It has a contrast between light colors and dark colors. So I chose not to suggest the skirt suit. Why? It is a great basic black suit. However, I feel like the shirt is a little too far down off the neck and that the skirt should be further down past the knees. As far as the men goes, this is a no-brainer. Of course, the gentleman in the suit, he is the perfect choice. It's a nice color, it's crisp, he's very well dressed, and he has his hair done. Everything is perfect. As far as the gentleman on the right-hand side, his hair is messy, his shirt is ironed, he doesn't wear a tie, he doesn't have a jacket on. Make sure, of course, you do not choose that attire. Okay, let's talk about some additional do's and don'ts. So for the nice pantsuit example that I provided to you on the right-hand side, I placed a no symbol around the white pocket square because it simply is not required in order to have a good look for an interview. The suit itself is perfectly fine. So with the additional do's and don'ts, do clear your schedule for the entire day. This will help you with clearing your mind, getting some good sleep, getting some a good meal, and it also allows you to be there to the interview on time. So I recommend clearing your schedule. Also, make sure you have great hygiene. I know this is self-explanatory, but this is a corner you do not want to cut. You want to make sure you do your hair and your beard. Some people have long hair, some men have long hair, so you want to make sure that stays out of your face. You want to make sure you shower and do not put on a lot of cologne. It's either none or very light cologne. You do not want to go into an interview with an overpowering smell because that will make the interviewers a little uncomfortable and it will definitely cut your interview short. Men, you want to do your nails. I know this doesn't sound good, but you want to go ahead on and make sure you can go to a nail salon and ask for a manicure with no polish. Or if you know someone who does nails, you can just reach out to them and ask them to help your nails look really nice for the interview, because it's not just the suit that makes the good impression, it's everything about you. So now you also want to make sure you brush your teeth. You're going to be talking to people, you're going to be smiling, and you want to make sure that you are the most comfortable and you don't kind of uh, make a bad impression on that end. Make sure you have a breath mint just before the interview. This is not recommended, but I mean, it's not required, but I do recommend it because it will give you a great peace of mind knowing that you're going to talk to people with great smelling breath, and it won't make you feel uncomfortable either. Also, I recommend chapstick. The reason I recommend chapstick is because it will allow your lips to be a little moisturized. With all the talking that you're going to do, it will make you 100%, it will make you 100% comfortable and allow you to communicate better. Jewelry. Okay, men, a watch is fine, a wedding ring is fine, medical jewelry is absolutely fine. You just do not need a necklace or any unordinary piercings. And finally, I do not recommend eating close to your interview. So I recommend not eating at least 2 hours before your interview unless medically necessary. And the reason is because you don't want your stomach to be really upset during the interview. So it really depends on when your interview is. If it's first thing in the morning, please forego breakfast and eat immediately after. If it is around lunchtime or a little after, make sure you eat breakfast, but then you still eat after the interview. This will help you with any type of stomach nervous issues you may have, and it'll make you more comfortable in the interview. Okay, now for the ladies, additionally do's and don'ts. Please make note that just about all of the same categories for the women are exactly from what I just covered with the men. However, I do have some additional changes or updates in red. But let's first go to their pictures. Okay, on the left-hand side, I have a no sign on her shoes. The reason is because if you look closely, you'll see that her heels are not covered. You do not want to go into an interview with your heels not covered. That is a no-no. For the picture on the right-hand side, I have a no symbol on her hair as well as her knees. So although her hair looks very full and beautiful and luscious, that is not appropriate for an interview. You want to make sure it's out of your face, it's pulled back, even put it in a bun if you'd like, but make it look as professional as possible. And as far as the skirt, I recommend it going past your knee. So now, for the additional do's and don't differences from the men. Of course, I just mentioned make sure your hair is out of your face. Additionally, make sure you have little to no perfume. The little to no perfume is the same aspect as the cologne. You do not want to go into an interview with a very strong smell to make them uncomfortable. Women, for your nails, make sure that they're short, natural, not bright at all. I do not recommend red. That is just not appropriate for an interview. So again, your nails, short, natural, no bright colors. If you don't like fingernail polish at all, that's even more appropriate. Your natural nails, shaped, clean, is just as good, if not better. Also for makeup, you want to make sure that it is light colored makeup. You want to make sure that you do not pack it on as if you're going out on the night on the town. If you wear makeup, not required. If you do, make sure it's very light, it's not heavy, it's not overdone, and definitely no red lipstick. For jewelry, one thin necklace, whether it's silver, gold, or one string of pearls, with the studded earrings is highly appropriate. I do not recommend any type of dangling earrings. Everything else is the same. Now for the reminders, what we just went over, the interview attire reminders. Please make sure you remember you only get one chance to make a good impression. So the idea is to look like you belong to the organization and make sure that they know that you are ready to go work for them. As a general rule, you want your professional dress to be well fitted, dark color suit, kind of paired with a light shirt. You want simple accessories, polished shoes, be well groomed. You get the picture. That's what they want. So, in the end, doing all that with your attire, it should help you and make you look professional, confident, and competent. I've applied to a job. Now what? Now that you have applied to a job, first things first, please understand you should be applying for many jobs and not just one. You should not just assume that as soon as you apply for a position, they're going to call you any minute. That is not the reality. It is a waiting game. Sometimes it works quickly for people, sometimes it does not. It is normal to wait about a month or more regarding a position. So you have to exercise your patience in obtaining a position. So that's why I wanted to share some common employer practices so you can kind of understand from the employer's perspective the timeline on filling a position. So first, they have to post a position for a certain amount of time. It can be a month, 3 months, it can be 6 months, depending on what the employer wants. Then they go through and they review all the applications to see who they would like to move to the next stage. During that time, they ensure that the selected applicants meets all of the qualifications. Then they'll do a background check and contact references at different stages. So then they will decide who they would like to bring in for the actual interview. Depending on how the interview goes, once they've conducted it, if they have not chosen a person, then they review applicants again, and sometimes they'll repost the position until they find the perfect candidate. So please understand, once you apply for a position, you will have time to work it out and practice. Okay, I've applied to a job. Now what? These are steps to prepare because now you've already seen a job that you want to apply for. You've already applied for it. You've already studied it and everything. So now you're waiting. So now what you're going to do while you're waiting, you want to obtain a reusable file folder and make one for positions applied for. Now it can be electronic, but for me, I like to have something tangible in front of me. In that folder, you're going to include a printout of the job listing or the posting that you've applied for, your updated resume, a list of questions that you want to ask them, any research about the company that you have collected. So all of the information pertaining to the organization should be placed in the folder and readily accessible when and if you receive an interview. So the next thing you also want to do is create a master list of questions that you may be asked with the answers already done for you to study. So you want to create that list, a master list of questions that the company may ask you, and you want to go ahead on and already answer them. So when the time comes, you can study them. That's how you prepare. Okay, you have your file folder with all your information in it. So now what are you going to do with this information? What you're going to do is that you're going to kind of pre-prepare for the interview. What you need to do is that you need to know yourself. What is your best attributes or training that qualifies you for the position? You want to know the organization. Research it, the articles, the company. What do they do? The strengths, the values, the company culture. What do you like about the company outside of the position that you just applied for? When you're reading that information, this is the stuff that you should highlight. You also want to understand the job itself that you've applied for, the salary, the minimum qualifications, the preferred experience, job description, essential duties and responsibilities. You want to make sure you know and understand that, yes, this is the job that I want to do. I'm qualified. So now you have all your information that you've gathered. When you are interviewed or you are being scheduled for an interview, you're going to pull out this folder with all this gathered information, and you're going to practice, practice, practice. You're going to practice your professional introduction, your speech. You're going to practice your confidence when going over the information, because they interviewed you for a reason. So you have to show them your confidence. You want to do a mock interview just to see how you do, to knock out some of the kinks that you may have when interviewing. And then you want to make sure and you plan your sleep pattern, when you eat, and definitely your business interview attire. I have an interview. Now what? Okay. Now you have an interview. Now what? So what you're going to do is you're going to take that folder that you just made, filled with all of that information. You're going to pull it out. You're going to review it, and you're going to connect yourself to the position. You're going to connect yourself to the position. Now, how are you going to do that? You're going to dissect the minimum qualifications, job description, essential duties, and responsibilities to connect yourself to the company with what you have already accomplished. Let's say that again. You are going to dissect the minimum qualifications, job description, essential duties, and responsibilities to connect yourself to the company with what you have already accomplished. So now, the questions that you're going to ask yourself as you're reviewing all of this information, the questions you're going to ask yourself is basically, what duties and responsibilities can I highlight during the interview? So you're reviewing the job description, you're reviewing all the information about the company. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, what duties and responsibilities can I highlight during the interview? You can write them down, you can circle them, you can highlight them, but answer that question. You also want to ask yourself, what experience do I have that was not in the posting, but can benefit the organization? Answer that question again. What experience do I have that was not in the posting, but can be beneficial to the organization? Once you answer these two questions, you will be able to formulate questions and answers for you to practice in your interview. Okay, now it's time for the interviews and what to expect. What type of interview do you say? What type of interview will I encounter? Well, let me share some of the most common ones. The first one is the phone interview. It's really just a get to know you. Sometimes it can be 15 minutes, and that's it. They're basically trying to feel you out to see whether or not they want you to move forward in the process. If you get to move forward, You may have an in-person with one person or multiple people. They're basically the gatekeepers, and they also kind of let the people know whether or not you should go to the next step or not. Sometimes you will go in and have a panel interview, a group interview. It can be 3 people, it can be 5 people. I've been on an interview to where there were 6 people. So when you go in, just know you may encounter one of these interview types. There's also an interview called a video interview. This is really different from the interviews that are being done on Teams. So that's not the same thing. This video interview is where the company provides you with the questions. You have to record yourself answering the questions. It's kind of up and down. There's some pros and cons to it. The pros about a video interview is that you get to record it over and over until you feel like you got it right. The downside is that you don't have that one-on-one with the employer. You don't get to ask them questions, and you don't get to allow them to see how professional you are. Lastly, there's dining and lunch. Dining and lunch is usually reserved for mainly executives that come in to interview. So there's the whole list of possible interview types that you would walk into. Just be aware. Now, you have the interview. You have to prepare for the interview. We've already talked about what you're going to wear. So now what you're going to bring are copies of your resume. You want a minimum of 3 to 5 resumes. Okay, so usually the resume has already been provided to the interviewer, the main person who wants to interview you. But sometimes you may run into a group or a panel interview where not everyone has seen your resume. You may not need it, but make sure you have it. You also want a pen and a notebook. Not a large notebook. You just want something really, really small. This is recommended so you would not have to pull out your phone. You do not want your phone out during an interview at all. So you want to bring a professional pen, and you want to bring a small professional notebook in case they ask you questions, they want you to write something down, or you want to remember something. Just please do not pull out your phone during an interview. And you also want to bring a list of questions. They will always ask you, do you have any questions for us? And it should never be no. Even if you have to write those down, make sure you do so and bring them with you. Okay, now it's time to help you prepare for the types of questions that you may encounter. By this time, you have already reviewed the job description, all the information about the company, you've pulled out your folder, and so now you're preparing to make your answers, write down your answers to common questions that are asked. And so the very first questions usually are credential experience verification questions. Those are normal type of questions that you're going to receive. Some engineers, they are asked technical questions, or they're asked to bring in something so that they can provide a demonstration, something about computer programs, writing samples. Sometimes they will ask you for that, not always. And also opinion questions. What are your thoughts about using A program versus B program? So you will not always receive an opinion question, but just know if you are given an opinion question, please have an opinion. Do not say you do not know. The purpose of this question is they want to see if you have an opinion, if you can formulate your opinion and communicate your opinion. So it's not a right or wrong answer. You just make sure you answer it properly. Next, you will definitely have behavioral questions. They're going to ask you like, tell me about a time when, what happened, what did you do to fix it, and outcome. These are the most important questions because you will always have the behavioral questions. So make sure you have a behavior question answer prepared. Also, brain teaser questions. If you were a color or animal or car, which would you be and why? So this is my least favorite types of questions, and not everyone asks them. There's a purpose behind some of these questions that we don't know, and we don't know why they ask them. But the main purpose of this is that they just really want to assess your problem solving skills, creativity, critical thinking, and the ability to think outside the box. I was asked one of those questions before and it was completely wrong, but I did my best. So just know, brain teasers will not always be asked. So if you receive one, don't be surprised. All right, so now it's time to go into the traditional interview questions that you will probably be asked most definitely within every single interview. It's usually called the Big Five, but I'd like to say, okay, it's 6 things to look out for because the first one is not really a question, it's a statement. But we're going to go over the traditional ones and just make sure you write them down because you will be asked this in probably almost every single interview. The first one is tell us about yourself. So when they say tell us about yourself, they want to know about your career choice, what interests you, your skills that make you a good fit, your career goals, and so why this job is a good fit in your journey. They're not asking about your vacation, so please don't go on a long tangent about that. They want to know, why are you a strong candidate? That should be easy. Make sure you figure out and write down your strengths. Why are you interested in working for us? So of course, they know it's for the job, but you want to focus on other aspects of that. You want to focus on the job, the benefits, the company, accomplishments, everything in between. Just come up with a great formulated answer. Number 4, why should we hire you for this position? You want to tie your skills, your works, your strengths, what sets you above others in the job duties. That's why they want to know, why should we hire you? Okay? Evidently, they know that there's something great about you, but you need to be able to communicate your skills, your works, your strengths, and what sets you above on the job duties. So then they're going to ask you to identify maybe 2 strengths, identify 2 weaknesses. You want to make sure you have those ready and you can communicate them well, but tie them into the position and what the job requirements are. So the weaknesses are the most important. You want to turn your weakness into a positive weakness, not a negative weakness. A negative weakness would be, I really cannot stand to see someone standing around. I don't like that. But you need to turn that positive and say something like, I actually think one of my weaknesses is that I overhelp people. I overhelp people because I understand the importance of getting the tasks done. So if I see that someone may need some help, I'm more apt to go over and ask if they need some help so we can get the task done. See the difference? Finally, number 6, any questions for us? The answer, like I stated before, is always yes. Make sure that you come up with at least 3 questions to ask at the end. What you will always receive are behavior interview questions. Now, why will they ask you behavior interview questions? It's because they are going to focus on the specific example that you provide based off your past behavior as a mean of understanding and predicting the future behavior that you may do or perform with their company. So this is a very, very important thing to practice and work on. Here's some great examples of behavior questions and statements that you will probably receive. Tell us about a time you disagreed with your boss. Provide an example of a time you had to work with a group to achieve a goal and what the result was. Describe a time you were given criticism on the job and how you handled it. And tell us your greatest strength and weaknesses using an example for each. Okay, so you have the behavior questions in mind. So now let me show you how to best answer the behavior interview questions. The best way to answer behavior questions is through what we call the STAR method. Some people call it the problem action result or situation action result method. But the best one is the STAR method, meaning situation, task, action, results. When you're answering this question and you have identified that they have asked you this question, you want to make sure you respond with the situation that happened, with the task that was supposed to be performed, the action that you took, and also the result of those actions. So, first you have to identify the behavioral question, and you have to write down and practice this STAR method with your answer. So let's say it again together. The STAR method stands for situation, task, action, results. And as soon as you put it in that method and practice saying it in that order, you will always get this question right. The situation, task, action, results. When formulating your STAR answers to your behavior questions, you want to make sure that it is always work-related experiences, which can be in a volunteer sense, it can be in a professional environment. Just make sure it's work-related experiences that tie to the position you're applying for. Make sure whatever you state is relevant and real, and also make sure it's very specific to the accomplishments to let them know how you handled the situation. Remember, it has to be work related to the position. It has to be relevant to the position. And you want to make sure you outline the specific accomplishments that came out of that situation. All right, we're quickly going to go over an example. And this is just a very basic example. You can be thinking of one in your mind as I cover this. So the question or the statement would be, tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer or team member. So let's start with the situation and the task. So in my job as a front desk assistant, a student came in who missed a deadline and they were very, very upset about it. So what action did you take about it? Well, I allowed him to vent his frustrations, and I offered two alternatives for him. He could wait 30 minutes for a consultant to become free, or he can schedule another appointment. Well, what was the result of that? Well, the result of that was that he felt like he was being heard. He calmed down a little bit, and he decided to reschedule an appointment. And the consultant at that time was able to waive the deadline, and he received his credit for his internship. So if you notice within this example, we told the situation, we told what the task was, we told what the action that was taken, and we told what the result of it was. This is how you formulate your behavioral questions. Right. Now that we've covered everything, you've applied for the position, you've printed out all the information, you've reviewed the information about the job, the company, you've written down your questions, you've practiced those questions for your interview, and so now your interview is happening tomorrow, and this is how you need to prep. First of all, you should have already received instructions. If you have not received instructions as far as where to go, what time to be there, who you're going to meet with, the point of contact of your information, make sure you email whomever set the interview up and ask them for that information if you have not received it. Then you drive to the interview location the day before. Drive to the interview location so you'll know where to go. Also, you might want to let your references know that you have listed them Some companies call them before the interview and some call after the interview. You just want to make sure your references are prepared to give a statement or a comment about you. Also have your suit and your documents ready the night before. Don't wake up the next morning and you have to iron or you can't find something. Have it sitting out and ready the night before. Then you want to practice your practice questions and answers. Just practice, practice, practice. So when the time comes for the interview, you'll be able to communicate your answers much, much better. Then get yourself a good night's sleep. So now that you have already gotten your outfit ready and you're ready for the interview, it's the night before, so now you need to practice your STAR method. I want to encourage you to put this video on pause and practice your STAR method for just a few moments. Day of the interview. Now is the day of the interview. You have already practiced, you have your information that you have worked on, your business attire is out and ready. So what you want to make sure that you do is that you leave early to account for traffic. If you get there too early, just wait in your car. Arrive in the office no more than 10-15 minutes early. I guarantee you, these are business executives who will not be 30 minutes early to an interview. So 10 to 15 minutes early is the best time. If you get there on time, let's say 1 o'clock, you are late. Be there 10 to 15 minutes early. You also want to make sure that you showcase a positive attitude. You want to smile and let your likability shows because it matters. Your interview will start from the parking lot until you leave the parking lot. What does that mean? That means everyone you encounter should see your positive attitude, should see your smile, should see your likability. From the person that you just pass in the hallway to the person who is the receptionist. Treat everyone with dignity and respect and prepare to meet the executives. Okay, now you are in the interview. You've arrived 10 to 15 minutes early. Everyone you've encountered has been so nice. You've been nice to them. So now you're in the interview. I want you to remember that you should always be aware that nonverbal communication means everything. Your body language means everything in an interview. Okay? Make sure you kind of remember who you're in front of and the impression that you're trying to make. No slouching, no looking all around, no hands on your face. You want to make sure that you're straight up and down, you're attentive, you're smiling, you're listening, and you're answering the questions. All right, now you're walking into the interview. What are you going to expect? What are you to expect when you go into this interview that you're so nervous about, but you're not going to be nervous? I'm going to tell you, you're going to wonder, when does the interview start? Why? Because sometimes the executives are not there on time. They're on their own time, they're super busy, and they may be 5 to 10 minutes late. So if they are, don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Just sit there and smile and just wait for them to start the interview. They're going to first initially introduce themselves. What you want to do is provide great eye contact, smile, and you want to make sure you shake hands. This is the appropriate greeting. It doesn't matter who the person is, whether it's a female, whether it's a male. This is a job interview, and shaking hands shows that professionalism. So, after the introductions happen, they are going to open up the interview. 9 times out of 10, the interview is always opened up with, "Tell us about yourself." Now remember, you've practiced this. This is your elevator pitch. This is what you are going to open with. Then, the body of the interview. This is where they're going to have and go through all those different types of questions that we covered. Make sure you have practiced your behavior questions and answers all together. This is where the majority and the importance of the interview happens, in the body of the interview. So now, the closing of the interview, they're going to say, do you have any questions for us? That lets you know that they are done with the interview. They want to know if you have questions for them, and the answer should always be yes. Always yes. That is the closing of the interview. Now, however, make sure you have 3 to 4 questions prepared, no more than that. So now it is up to you to provide a closing statement to the interviewing team. That means you shake hands, you re-emphasize your appreciation for their time. Now, what would that look like? That's going to look like after the closing of the interview, they'll say, do you have any more questions for us? You could say something like this as that's your cue to close out the interview. You're going to say, I do not have any more questions, but I just want you to know that I really appreciate your time and I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you today. So with that, I say I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. That is a great closing statement. And to also make sure you shake hands when you leave, you smile and appreciate the day. After the interview. So now you have finished the interview. You're very proud of yourself. It went well, so you think. And so now what do you do afterwards? What you want to do is you want to send a simple thank you email within 24 hours. Doesn't have to be a paragraph, doesn't have to ask them how long is it going to be before you hire. It can be something as simple as your closing statement to say, I just wanted to reiterate that I'm very thankful for the opportunity to interview. I really appreciate it. If you have any further questions that you may not have asked during the interview, please feel free to reach out. Have yourself a great rest of the day. That is a great, simple email that you can send to let them know you still appreciate the interview. Then feel free to connect with them on social media. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. LinkedIn is a great professional platform, so connecting with them on LinkedIn is not inappropriate at all. You also want to assess your performance. You want to criticize yourself to say, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I do better? You want to list out those lessons learned so you can learn to do them better for your next interview. Then you want to be patient. You want to be patient because it takes them a long time sometimes to hire someone. If you can recall the employer perspective on hiring, the hiring process. So just be very patient and do not try to contact the hiring manager because that can be perceived very, very negatively. Okay, now for the wrap up. Just some information I wanted to go ahead on and reiterate. Make sure you apply for more jobs. Apply, apply, apply until you get a job that you want. Utilize Handshake for workshops and job searches, specifically looking for students. So all of the jobs that are in Handshake, those companies are looking for students. They know that you are students because they signed up to join Handshake to advertise their positions. So that could be a great first resource for you. Also, the company will either email or call you with next steps if you are chosen to move forward. If they move you forward, make sure you follow their instructions perfectly. There's no timeline for you to hear a response. Remember, every company is different. Just continue to monitor your email, listen to your messages, and hope for the best. Thank you so much for joining us. That's the end of ACE Your Interviews. I hope you were able to take some great notes. At the end of the day, we are the University of Texas at Dallas Natural Sciences and Mathematics Career Success Center. feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. Here's the QR code for your convenience. If you have any questions, please reach out to us with questions. We're happy to help, and good luck on your interview.